Hey everybody, welcome back to Lettermen Row. This is another Lettermen Live brought to you by our good friends at Roosters. It's a fun, casual Ohio State conversation. I am Austin Ward. You know Jeremy Birmingham, my colleague. The man is back down there to attack and dominate, Anthony Schlegel. And for the first time, we've got the former Ohio State NFL wide receiver, Dane Sanzenbacher, in the virtual building with us. Dane, so we'll start with you. Hope you're doing all right. Thanks for joining us for the first time. And looks like you're staying safe there in the home quarantine.
Yeah, just like everybody else, I guess. We're getting through it the best we can. I like all the modifications you guys have made to make this feel like Roosters, but we'll make the best, yeah.
No carry-out food and no mac and cheese bites for me this week, but we'll make that up. For anybody who hasn't followed you since wrapping up with the Bengals there, Dane, what have you been up to, and what brings you back to hang out with us?
Yeah, I've had a little bit of a journey. I bounced around, tried a few different things. When I left Cincinnati, I was back in Toledo for the past, 3 or 4 years. 2 years on the air as a TV news reporter. Started off in sports, decided to go into the general news side. So it was a little bit weird for our Toledo viewers, but because it was about a year after, and I'm reporting on, house fires or whatever breaking news there might be. So did that for a couple years to get some experience. After that, I bounced over. I was the director of admissions at my former high school in Toledo. So another 180 from that. And after that, I about a couple months ago decided to move back down to Columbus. So in moving back down to Columbus was kind of reconnecting with people that I hadn't talked to in probably too long. And then this came up. I hadn't even followed Lettermen Row or how this has kind of grown. It's been crazy.
Well,
Ken, I just got to ask you, how did you celebrate 419 Day yesterday? I assume you did.
You assumed wrong. I didn't even realize.
Ah, man, I'm always wrong when I assume.
I'm sure there wasn't much going on in Toledo.
No, there wasn't. You're right.
Due to the quarantine. But yeah, it's usually a big thing up there. I didn't even see it. We'll edit that part out so our Northwest Ohio people don't.
Dang, we Toledoans are used to feeling alienated. It's fine.
Yeah, just kind of shoved up there in the top of the
we're fine.
It didn't take long for you two for Berm to take this over. All he's talking about is, he throws away the professional side when we talk about you and how many autographs he was going to get at Roosters.
Toledo, there are very few people who've ever come through Toledo area football that played the game as well as Dane Sanzenbacher.
Wow.
I mean, let's just call it like it is. I mean, he single-handedly, he won't admit it, I'll just say it for him, he single-handedly won a state championship at Central Catholic. His high school coach was one of my high school baseball coaches. I feel very interwoven to Greg Dempsey. And I didn't go to Central, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What matters is that Toledo is now winning this conversation. 50% of Roosters.
This is why I had to leave Toledo, because you have people talking like that to you too much. You can really – your head gets a little too big.
I'm a Bengals fan. I could care less about what you did in Cincinnati, but how you handled, Solon and Brandon Sane and those guys back in 2006 and 7.
I appreciate it. It
was incredible. It was an incredible run. So congratulations.
Thank you. And that's kind of how the Toledo stuff got woven in, and I ended up in so many different fields. Most of it related to my past in football. So that's how the news gig started. It transformed into general news, started in sports. Same thing with my alma mater. They wanted somebody in there who had been a part of the school, somewhat notable. But after like 3 or 4 years, I wanted to get back down to Central Ohio, try something new, do something different. So kind of pulled the trigger a few months ago and reconnected with Schlegel for a brief moment in his mad laboratory. But yeah, that's pretty much been my post-Cincinnati life. It's been strange. It's been a learning experience. It's been weird, as it is for a lot of players going out of the game back into something completely different. You got to kind of find your bearings, but it's been cool.
If Berm is going to keep pumping you up, we'll at least have to bring Schlegs in to bring you back to reality, right?
I know. It's a matter of time.
No, I mean, then this is where people don't understand how beautiful the brotherhood of Ohio State football is, because we all obviously try to go to the next level and play there. And then what happens with life after football? And in my shop, I just got whiteboards, right? So it's all about going in and trying to help each other figure out how I could add value, right? Because at the end of the day, every time we go to work, like what you guys are doing, like you just want to add value. And then we get out and it's like, okay, I was on this team. I had all my teammates. I was a leader. How can I take this skill set that I have and translate it into the workforce, but still, have that feeling of team and adding value and collaborating, like all these different things, like where can I best put myself in that position?
Yeah, it's definitely it's been kind of refreshing in a, I guess, selfish way to reconnect with people and see that for a lot of athletes, that transition is strange. They try to kind of prep you for it, but going from, the top of your game to having to start as a rookie in whatever you're going to do again, because whatever the new thing you start is, you might have confidence in yourself, but you're brand new and you got to, reprove that. A part of even the Toledo thing and wanting to move back to Central Ohio is kind of what you mentioned earlier, is that there's not a whole lot. There are a few people that you can bounce it off of, but there's not a whole lot of people from Northwest Ohio that I could talk to about that thing. Well, Central Ohio, a lot of my former teammates are back there. A lot of guys who have gone through the same things can make that transition a lot easier. So it's probably easier for me and a better move to be in Central Ohio. Not that I don't love Toledo, it's my hometown, but there's just fewer people that have been in my shoes.
You don't have to apologize. I get it. I mean, I get it.
Yes.
All right, we're not going to let Berm take over that anymore. I
will say this before we move on. Back in the day when Dane was being recruited, he went on this bus trip with Teddy Ginn Sr. and these guys and went around the country. Mm-hmm. And myself and my brother were big message board guys, and we remembered stumping for you to get an Ohio State offer every single stop. We were like, why aren't the Buckeyes offering this kid? Why aren't the Buckeyes offering this kid? He's the best player in Ohio. And then they finally did, and then you scored touchdowns in your first game as a true freshman, and I was like, yes, I am vindicated.
Fortunately, I had Ted Ginn Sr. to stump for me. So not that yours wasn't
wasn't
big enough, but that's honestly what it took. And it was at the end of that bus tour. I found this out years later when Tressel was doing a speaking engagement, that because I wasn't even on Ohio State's radar, in fact, they were loosely recruiting. Coach Tress's brother, Doc, who was our running backs coach at the time, was my recruiter, pretty much talked to Coach Dempsey and said, we don't really have a spot for him. We'll keep an eye on him. It wasn't until the end of that bus tour, Ted Ginn Sr. got the ear of Coach Tressel, gave him the okay, and it was a day later. So it was the blessing from him that kind of really changed my path. It was the oddest thing. I didn't find that out until a few years ago. Tressel told that story. Nobody had ever told me that's how it happened. I just got an offer one day and thought it was totally because of, I don't know, my play at a camp that really didn't matter. It was it was a recommendation. Yeah.
Well, thank God it was his recommendation and not Berm's, because otherwise this show would never hear the end of it.
That's true. That's true.
There is another batch of Ohio State guys trying to make a professional transition this week, and it's certainly not the ideal NFL draft experience for them. It hasn't been there was not a pro day for them. They've had to do a bunch of Zoom meetings like this, which surely is not the best way to talk to GMs and scouts and coaches around the league. But Ohio State's got another looks like record-setting draft class. They're going to have a little bit of claim there to Joe Burrow, probably number 1. Chase Young should be going number 2, in my opinion. Jeff Okudah at 3. That's wild. Those guys were all on the same team 2 years ago. Could be the first 3 picks in the draft. As you guys look ahead to Thursday night and Friday and Saturday in this Ohio State draft class, who are you most intrigued by, Schlegs, as somebody who can help at the next level?
Man, so start listing them off, bro.
All right, so
Austin, start listing them off.
You got the top 3 there. You got the wide receiver group that Dane can talk about. Austin Mack, Ben Victor, KJ Hill. Offensive lineman, Jonah Jackson, Brandon Bowen. J.K. Dobbins in the backfield, Damon Arnett, Jordan Fuller, Malik Harrison.
So many.
Deshaun Cornell, Robert Landers, Devon Hamilton, Rashad Berry. All these guys have a chance to be drafted this week.
Yeah, so I'm leaning toward Jonah Jackson and probably, I think that JK is a guy, obviously, that could help out because I think his game correlates, and we saw that this last year. The speed, he obviously has the breakaway speed, but just his ability to hit the hole really quickly is something that we all like from Zeke. And I think this last year really showed that he grew in his patience. But as far as positions from Ohio State that correlate right to the NFL right out the gate, Jonah Jackson's the guy that stands out in my opinion. One, older guy, came here, understands what it means just to come into a locker room, win it over, and win a job. So I really think him going to the next level is the opportunity because there's a lot. He's not a prototypical guard in the sense like an Andrew Norwell, 6'7", 330 pounds, right? He's a little bit shorter in stature, but he is ultra aggressive. And in that league, those guys can stay there for a long period of time. So to me, the number one guy that I'm looking at that's kind of under the radar would be Jonah.
Dane, who you got?
Hey, let's keep it simple with Chase. I just think, outside, I think all these guys, the cool thing about this transition and, having the perspective of going through it, it is kind of a reset. And there can be, I know there's all of these guys are going to have a chance when they step into camp to make that difference. It could be a first round guy. It could be a later round guy. I just think in my experience, Cam Hayward he was our only first rounder in my year. And was able to step in in a defensive line and make an impact right away. So you see that happen on D-lines. You see defensive players or defensive linemen defensive ends going early in the draft and making impacts right away. But I think this is, going back to how strange this year is with obviously the circumstances having to do a lot of this. It might be good for him. That was the most, I don't want to say annoying. It was the most stressful part of that process, and one that it doesn't move the needle that much, in my opinion. What these guys are lucky, they have the tape. All these GMs, these people, they want to talk to him, they want to get a feel for him, but whatever they have on tape in college is going to make that decision for them. And to be able to kind of avoid that part, kind of focus on what is upcoming, I can't say I really miss the opportunity of sitting in the meetings with these GMs at the combine and at pro days and doing all that.
Yeah.
They're football players. They play the game. They have the tape. They've made plays throughout their careers or we wouldn't be talking about them now. These GMs know who they are. So it's a cool situation. I think, guys could benefit from it.
Yeah, I kind of wondered along those lines where if Ohio State guys have this incredible film and a lot of it is against elite competition, you always see this draft process where scouts and GMs fall in love with guys who have a great combine or, they're really trying to dig under a rock to find that small school guy. These teams like the New Orleans Saints that just are like, hey, let's keep drafting Buckeyes because they've played in big-time games. That tends to be working out. So maybe, they'll be in this situation this week where they can't overthink it. They had a limited amount of research they could do, and they actually rely on the game film. That would seem to help Ohio State guys.
That's a great point, and one I hadn't really thought of, but that is because this is weird for the NFL guys too. I just talked to one of my former teammates, buddy, that's quarterback coach with the Rams out in LA, assistant quarterback coach. And I was talking to him yesterday. This is brand new for them. They're doing all of their Skype meetings. They're trying to figure out what they're doing with their own guys, how they're going to go about this year. If you're in that office, how much of a risk are you going to take on somebody? Or are you going to say, hey, there's an Ohio State pedigree here. Let's not overthink this thing. It's an unprecedented year. Let's make the call, move on. That's a really good point that I hadn't really thought about.
Yeah, and it's really going to benefit a guy like Malik, right? So if you look at Malik, 6'4", 250 pounds, he's the type of guy that hey, are we a 3-4? Are we a 4-3? Could he be a Sam? Could he be an outside backer? Could we put him on the inside? Will he help on special teams? He ran a 4.66 at the combine. He probably would have ran better at pro day, but you don't have that, right? And there's some guys that probably didn't run at the combine. Maybe they were injured or whatever, but he already has that time. So they have to put all of this, all of the knowledge that they have as the best they can together, and then they're going to look like, all right, this guy contributed for 4 years. Here's what he is. Here's his size. And again, for a guy, the middle round guys for Ohio State is who this is really going to benefit the most, right? Because then you look at a guy like Damon Arnett, who, Jeff Okudah's been talking about for a long time about one of the best corners in this draft. Well, they're going to be looking at film, right? They're going to be looking at, okay, what did Ohio State's defense do? Number 1 defense in the country. Here's how this guy contributed with a broken hand or wrist or whatever it was, right? So we'll take a chance on him. The other one, too, that I didn't mention, there's 2. KJ Hill, and you can talk about this more, Dane. Could he be the next Terry McLaurin, right? Potentially. Look at his route runnings and the stuff that he was doing in like the Senior Bowl and that. And then the one that we always talked about on this show, and that's Davon Hamilton. Again, I love him because he's a 2-star guy. He's from Central Ohio. Immediate impact from that type of interior guy, right? He kind of reminds me of like an old school New England Patriot, like somebody that just lost some people that wants to go find value in the middle rounds with a guy that's proven, that's been an anchor there on the defensive line at Ohio State's been very, very productive, that could go and plug in and be, that 3 technique or that nose guard at the next level. Where does he fit in? So to me, in this draft, those middle round guys, 2nd to 4th round, is where you're going to see a lot of guys taken from Ohio State.
Berm, who are you keeping your eye on this week?
I think it's J.K. Dobbins the most. I'm just – with him, it's so much – and everyone, it's about fit and how you fit into a program, style-wise. But J.K. showed a lot of versatility, a lot of durability, which I think was a question for him coming into this season. Obviously, that he's extremely explosive, but the difference that there was in J.K. Dobbins between the sophomore year and junior year, I think that we've barely begun to see where he's able to go. And on a larger level, I just think the most interesting part of this transition is watching guys who go from being a part of the Ohio State machine, right, which is the Ohio State program is promoting you. The Ohio State program is helping build your brand. I'm always interested to watch guys like Chase Young and Jeffrey Okudah to see how they now take their brand by themselves. And you start to see them get a lot more comfortable in being their own people, because Ohio State is so regimented and you're so part of the brotherhood and the team. And the NFL and professional sports is about promoting yourself in most ways. And I'm always interested to watch how that happens. And you see on Chase on his social media, all the rappers he's hanging out with and being at Laker games and doing this and doing that.
Good for a career too.
Yeah, it's a pretty – I just think it's great to watch these kids take control of their own brand. And that's something that I just – maybe I'm a nerd for it, but I'm interested in watching how they develop now, because Ohio State insulates you so much in a lot of those ways that it's just cool to see where they go.
And that already started happening, with Jeff Okudah at the Combine. People saw that give and take with the reporter who accused Okudah of playing sloppy coverage last year. He said, cut that tape on again. Like, that isn't the kind of soundbite that we normally got from Jeff Okudah on the record, because, Ohio State guys know what they should and shouldn't say in public, when they're part of that team, and he didn't want the attention on himself. But, he's out there then, and as you said, Berm, taking charge of his own self-promotion, and he wasn't going to let that slight against him stand. No pass interference calls last year, the best, defensive passer rating allowed on him all year. He was the best cornerback. I can't believe still that he didn't win the Thorpe Award, but he's going to be rich on Thursday, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
Well, I mean, the one thing that's crazy is how can these Ohio State guys go to the NFL and produce the way they're doing when all they're doing is doing tug of war with tires and mat drills every single day, right?
Well, they're
like,
not even lifting real weights.
Right? What does that mean? You know, because you guys brought to my attention some slapdick was talking about how they don't do type of progressive overload principle or conjugate method. Like these are tried and true scientifically based things. And all Ohio State does is roll around on mats and you know, do tire tug of war. I don't even know how Chase Young's even qualified to be the number 2 pick in the draft. It's crazy talk.
I knew I shouldn't have even brought it up and get you going on that.
I know.
We've had some people take Ohio State social media mat drill videos and think that that's the entirety of the weight program. And I thought a former strength coach under Mick Marotti might really appreciate the insight that, hey, he's been doing it wrong the whole time.
I can't believe that.
Is that what you're getting fired up about, Schlegs? I didn't hear about it.
They told me about this, and I'm like, all right, how many head strength coaches are around the country that Mickey Marotti has, you know, taught? Like, okay, there's a lot of them at major big-time programs. And obviously Ohio State and what they've done, yeah, they're probably doing something right. And it's not just mat drills, right? And but you know what? Here's the thing, though. Even the mat drills, what does it do? Byrne kind of talked about them taking their brand. Well, mat drills are about you being able to show your brand to your teammates, right? When called upon, will you respond? And so they're controlling that environment by creating events that make you have to strain before you actually have to go out on Saturdays and strain and execute for your teammates, right? So that's what they do. And all of these guys that are out there, like they understand that. And that's why you're seeing their ability to produce at the next level, not because of mat drills, not just because of the weight room, but they have been totally developed at Ohio State. And what Byrne was talking about, you have this brand that Ohio State helps you build, and now they're able to take that and grow that because that is becoming it's a business in and of itself, right? Like guys can make money off of their image and likeness and things that they promote on social media, but now they have a platform when they leave Ohio State that we never had, Dane and I, when we were playing, right? So it's just one of the things that Ohio State sets you up for success down the road that these guys can capture. But they are ready, and Terry McLaurin has said this from day one. When he stepped in to the locker room for the Washington Redskins, he was prepared, more prepared than any other rookie that was there or that he met at any other training things that he was doing in the offseason. He was prepared. He understood his routine. He understood what it meant to be a pro because Ohio State is ran very similarly to a pro program, period.
Dane, I'm curious, for you as a guy who, played under Jim Tressel and then went to the NFL, and then, as you said, bounced around a little bit and before coming back to Columbus, how much of an opportunity did you have to really see what was going on in Urban Meyer's Ohio State and recently? I mean, what is the biggest difference or two that you noticed in the time that you were away from when you were there?
I didn't get a chance to follow it that much. I mean, pretty much Urban's whole time there, I was in my own training camps, off seasons and everything. I would get back every once in a while. Of course there's differences. I mean, and if you're considering this still Urban Ohio State, or this is now Ohio State, there's probably a mix in there. There's always differences in culture. It was different for me because Ohio State was so much the people. It wasn't the Woody Hayes Center. And I didn't personally have those strong relationships with the new coaches that came in or the new strength activity. So I didn't even really get an up close and personal look at it. I got the look that most fans got and was an impressive look. And that was just watching them in games. I'm admittedly more of a casual fan than you would think. So I would just see it, on the weekends, on Saturdays. And they're doing something right. And I think to kind of what Schlegel was saying is there's of course, like mat drills and all that stuff is not the reason for greatness, but there's also not a strength program, and he'll be able to speak to this way better than I will. But it's as much at that level, it's as much of an art as it is a science. These guys aren't lab rats that, there's intangible things that you're trying to get out of some of these workouts, drills, whatever it may be, that they're not trying to be the best at exercise, as Kenny Powers would say. It's they're trying to win football games. and they're trying to build and prove things to their teammates. There's workouts we did, and Schlegel knows he was there, that had just nothing to do with, sprint. You could convince yourself, I guess, that it physically translated, but these were mental drills. These were finding out who's who in the locker room, who's going to be your leader, who you're turning to, and whether you're internalizing that or not. When you're at an away game at Penn State at halftime, guys remember. Like, you remember whatever those workout drills were, and you remember who you're going to lean on in those times. I think that's something within the program that has been built in through Tressel, through Urban, I assume now with Coach Day, that does translate to the next level, because when you've built that confidence, you do carry that with you. When you're a guy going into the draft now, you've proven it to yourself, you've proven it to your teammates, and now, like you said, this is your own brand, you're going off on your own. Well, you don't get to take much with you besides that skill set, and that ball of confidence is a big one to take into the NFL, because it's a tough league. It's a tough business. Everybody's the best of the best. They certainly don't believe in you when you're walking in. You better. When you're a rookie, even if you're a first rounder, maybe the first few picks, the other guys in the locker room, like, okay, yeah, okay, we'll see. That's one of the biggest gifts Ohio State can give to players going into the draft, is knowing that they earned that confidence through all the whatever drills, training sessions, the tough games, the big games, the having no real life in college. It's tough. It is a grind, but here's your confidence. Here, at least for me, that's how it worked. Now, some guys have to prove it to themselves. Some guys are born with it. The born with it is very small amount of people. Most people, they have to see that they can do it. And I think that'll be a huge one for a lot of these guys. And that's probably why you've seen so many guys in recent years step into the NFL and say, okay, I've done this. I can do this.
Yeah. That's a big opportunity for this batch of Buckeyes starting Thursday. We'll be following that at Lettermen Row. As we wind down here on Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters, I was going to take a page. I was on The Fan a week or two ago, Schlegs, with your boy Matty Ice, and he threw this at me, and I thought, I'm going to steal this idea. I'm going to ask it to you guys on Lettermen Live. He said, tweaking it a little bit. You've got 4th and 5, and you can draft any Ohio State quarterback and any one wide receiver to get you the conversion. And Burm, I know that you'll draft somebody, and it'll be worse than my pick. That's just a weekly staple of this show. I want
to be consistent.
I'm going to start with you then, Burm. You've got any quarterback and any wide receiver in Ohio State history. Who's getting you the first down?
Troy Smith to Chris Carter.
That is pretty good.
I'll show my age.
Any other contenders? Or are you just going to spit that out and move on?
I would also probably consider a Dwayne Haskins to Terry Glenn combination, because Terry Glenn in 1995 was the single best year I've ever seen a receiver have at Ohio State. But then I would also work in a Justin Fields to David Boston, also probably in that combination.
Taking a lot of people off
for 5 yards.
Yeah. Well, because Justin Fields could run it for 5, and so could, and then
it was a
Boston
screen, right?
And then Boston could just be the lead blocker at that point.
Just a quick screen.
Dane, you gonna bet on yourself, or you're picking somebody else to get that first down for you?
No, I would bet on myself in the moment, but in all of Ohio State history, that would be silly. First off the top of my head was Troy Smith. I would go Troy to Terry Glenn though too, and just that watching him a little bit. And he was obviously way before my time, but in my free time, I would kind of go back and try to see who were the guys that were here before. And there was even some old footage in like the DV Sport or whatever, the complex. They would keep like old clips of old guys in there that you could go watch. And yes, when he is probably the 95 season, his ability to get off the line in his first step, if you needed 5 yards, I'm taking that guy getting open. I'm sure. I'm taking a lot of them, but that's the first one that kind of pops into my head.
Plus, Ohio State used to run slants a lot, and so Terry Glenn was unbelievable running a slant, and that was like the go-to play. So if Buckeye fans out there haven't had a chance to watch that season, just look up Terry Glenn highlights from 1995, because you'll never see a receiver have a year like he did at Ohio State ever again.
Schlegel, who's getting your first down?
Well, Troy's my guy. So Troy's there. And then, you know, having coached and witnessed Michael, I would pick Michael Thomas.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
he's okay.
Yeah, he's just okay, you know. But I mean, like the hardest thing is, as of late, right, we've had such depth at the wide receiver position, and the offense was a little bit different to where, especially with JT, like he didn't really necessarily have the stats that a Terry Glenn did, but his ability was always there, right? I mean, I used to go into the facility, and there was Michael Thomas like catching balls through this zone 6 thing all by himself, you know? And then all of a sudden I'd come back out, and he had brought a couple other guys with him, and Evan Spencer was there, and guys were working on the same thing, but he was there for like 2 hours, you know? So one, being able to catch it, but Troy, different level, one having played with him, but yeah, I mean, again, he could run it, he could pass it, but that combination to me is dynamite.
I think in a couple of years we might be ready to all change our answer to Justin Fields at quarterback. He's on that track right now, but for me, I can't change what I said on that show a week ago. I think Dwayne Haskins, in terms of pure passing ability, is the best that Ohio State has ever had. And I'm also with you, Schlegs, that can't guard Mike. He didn't necessarily have the production with Ohio State that, you know, matches up this otherworldly level he's got with the Saints. But you could see that potential in him all along. And I think there was one notable slant berm that he got to run against Michigan State in that game, you know, JT on the run, and he took it to house. And people were like, well, why didn't that happen more often? Like, that seems like a pretty easy pitch and catch that could work. Not that Ohio State's having trouble scoring points or whatever, but that did exist. So that's in my mind. Mike Thomas could get that slant and do more than just get the first down.
I think you just proved, though, that you were the only guy here that wasn't living in Ohio and watching Ohio State football in 2005 to 2006. Because what Troy Smith was able to do on every play was very different than people, because we're all very you know, we're all kind of slaves to recent history, and that's the way things go. We're all but Troy Smith was ridiculous. Just ridiculous.
That's not a slight on Troy Smith.
He was so good.
He's so offended good that you would not pick him. That's not that it's a slight, but it's offensive.
That's fine.
The fact is, he won game. We're not even going to. He was Troy Smith.
Embrace debate.
Troy Smith is the reason that guys like Justin Fields exist and thrive now in the offenses around the country. He was incredible. And the thing about Troy Smith that people seem to, I don't know that they forget, Troy Smith was an incredible passer. Like, the guy threw an unbelievable football, as Dane could probably attest to.
I actually didn't get to play with him, unfortunately, but yes.
You had to play catch with him at some point, right? Never?
No, he was out before I got there. Yeah, we don't just meet up on the weekends, former guys.
You don't?
Toss the old pigskin around, no.
Well, I would have assumed that the Ted Ginn bus tour would have led you to Troy Smith.
No.
Berm came through with a lot of assumptions today, and they all fell flat. You hate to see it.
Hey, I know is this: they had the 05 Michigan game on there when Gonzo caught that one ball, right? That ended up helping us win the game. But there was a lot of plays like that Troy did. And to Berm's point, like, we were right there in that Vince Young time, right? Kind of like, dadgummit. I just had a brain fart. The guy from the Carolina Panthers that
Cam Newton.
Yeah, Cam Newton, like bigger type guys, right? They're not really necessarily the passer. They're like a combo of, you know, guy that can throw the ball decently but can run and get you the first down, and they're a bigger type set guy. But Troy was more athletic and quick, but a better passer. And so then that kind of led to, like what you're talking about, this Justin Field hybrid. Now he's bigger than Troy is, right? And he can still throw the ball, but he can also get you the first down. Doesn't necessarily have to rely on his feet to necessarily move the chains. Can do it in a variety of different ways. And then you surround him like we had in, 05. I mean, you had Gonzo, you had Santonio, you had Teddy Ginn Jr., and that's what they're starting to build here at Ohio State, year after year after year of this wide receiving core, this quarterback. And the beauty is we can change our offense to match the talent that we have, right? And you saw that, with Dwayne Haskins, right? He's a passer. He wasn't going to go get your first down like JT can. But then as soon as he's out of the mix and now in the NFL, and I think he's going to have a really good NFL career. And to your point, Austin, we could be talking about him being that guy from a passer standpoint.
Yep.
But now you have Justin Fields and the difference that our offense will look even this year compared to last year when you had a running back and an offensive line that they had to be able to run the football and what that's going to look like. So we now have a unique ability to allow our coaches to actually coach, but not be stuck into just a system, right? But be able to have a system that is adaptable to the talent that we are bringing in, because to Berm's point, in the recruiting side, it is the talent, right? And we have an abundance of it at Ohio State because of who we are and what they have done from all the years that Dane played, I played, the Tressel, the Cooper era, Urban Meyer era, and now the Ryan Day area, to where they are having an abundance of talent without even coming onto campus, right? Because of our coaching staff to want to come play for The Ohio State University.
Yeah, pretty good options to choose from. But when everyone tells me I'm wrong, that means that I'm going to end the show and that we're going to move on to next week. Appreciate Dane joining us for the first time, hopefully the first of many here at Lettermen Row with us. Anthony Schlegel, the difference, you know him. Jeremy Birmingham. I am just Austin Ward. This has been Lettermen Live, brought to you by Roosters. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe below to get the latest videos from Lettermen Row.
We got Lettermen Live. We've got the practice report. We got rapid reaction. Hey, and we got Buckeye IQ with Zach Bourne.
For sure. We got recruiting breakdowns with Berm. We got whatever you need. Ohio State football and Ohio State athletics, we've got you covered here at Lettermen Row.